Hey guys, I'm Andrew with JVR Industries, and in this video I'd like to introduce you to the latest option that is now available for the JVR Vac100, and I'd like to just show you how to use it. And if you have any questions at the end, you can definitely leave a comment, but let's get into it. So we have just come out with a vacuum chamber accessory that you can use exclusively with the JVR Vac100 via the accessory port. So what this will allow you to do, two primary functions, and if you guys come up with other things that you can do with it, great, but these are the two primary functions for this accessory. One, we can vacuum seal mason jars. Now this, do not confuse this does not take place of canning, but what this does do is it allows you to put different products like salsas or any soft products or items that you don't want to crush and put under vacuum. It allows you to put them into a jar and vacuum seal them, and it works really well. There are some other accessories out there for other chamber machines that would include putting a topper on top of a mason jar, or sometimes you'll see, you might even come across a video online of putting mason jars inside your chamber, which again you could do with the Vac100, but you're limited then to the size of the chamber as far as the size of the mason jar. So by purchasing this accessory separate, what it allows you to do is use the internal vacuum pump on the JVR Vac100 to pull vacuum on a larger chamber, which now will allow you to do any size mason jar and multiple jars at one time. So that's one, but the second function of this unit is to use it as a marinator. So what you can do is you can place bulk meats, bulk products, bulk items inside of this chamber, vacuum it, remove all the air. It will hold for 24 hours. So you can put this in your refrigerator and just let it sit there, let it marinate, because anytime you vacuum a product, what it does is it opens up the pores in the product, so any of those liquids will now flow in, and it'll do a much better job marinating your items versus just letting it soak in a glass container or something like that. So you would be amazed at the difference vacuum marination will provide over just your traditional marination. So let's get into it. If you order one of these, this is what it's going to look like. Just a standard box. We're going to open it up, and there's not a whole lot to it. You don't have a lot of things to assemble. We ship this ready to go right out of the box. Basically, you have a 3-gallon stainless steel chamber, nice size. Good quality build. You got the handles on it for transporting it around. And then you have an acrylic, a nice thick acrylic lid that's going to have a one-piece rubberized gasket. So you could easily remove that for cleaning, put that back on, and then you've got a simple valve system. Basic ball valve with your accessory hose. It'll come pre-connected. I'll show you this now. If you want to remove this hose down the road for cleaning, what you can do is, this is what we call a push to connect fitting. So there is going to be this little plastic ring around the end right here. You want to pull back on that ring while pulling out on the hose. So pull back on the ring and hold it, pull out on the hose, and that'll disconnect that. And then when you go to push it back in, just make sure it fully is seated and push in, and you'll kind of feel it pop in there. If you don't feel that pop, then I would give it a good tug and make sure that it is in there. But you should feel a little bit of a pop when you go to push it in. And that's it. So what we're going to do here is, at first I'm going to do something with mason jars. I'm going to vacuum seal a bunch of mason jars. You can just put them all in here. If you've never done a mason jar or never watched a video on vacuum sealing mason jars, the way you do this is you definitely need a 2-piece lid style jar. And then what you would do is place the flat piece onto the top, and you just want to make sure it's centered, and then you'll take the lid and you'll set it on there and just give it like a half of a turn just to hold it in place. That's all you want to do. Now the way this is going to work is when you remove all of the air from inside this chamber, what's going to happen is the positive air pressure inside of this jar is going to cause that lid to lift up. That's why it's got to be on there nice and loose. It'll cause that lid to lift up, and it'll remove all of the air from inside the jar. Then what will happen is at the very end, when we allow air to rush back into the chamber and come back to atmospheric pressure, what's going to happen is that rush of air coming back in is going to push the lid down and seal it off, because then we're going to have vacuum trapped in here. We're going to have air rushing in. It's going to push that down and create a seal, and then the difference in pressure is what's going to keep that lid stuck down tight. And then at that point, what you can do is just tighten down on the screw cap and you're good to go. So I've got some quart size and some pint size mason jars here. Or no, these are, I'm sorry, pint and half pint jars. You could easily fit quart size jars. You can even fit half gallon size jars in here. The smaller, obviously, the more you can fit. You do not want to double stack them. You do want to do a single layer. If you double stack them, then you're kind of defeating purpose because you're now putting pressure on that lid and it's not able to lift up and get the air out. So you're not going to want to do that. How this works with the machine, very simple. Turn on the unit, and then you've got the pump button all the way to the far right on this unit. And what that'll do is turn the pump on only. It'll run through a timeout, which is whatever that program is set up for. So if you got 30 seconds of vacuum, it'll run through the 30 seconds. You don't have to run the whole cycle. If you notice that this gauge gets to the vacuum level, because whatever the gauge on the machine is showing, that's the pressure that you're getting into the chamber. So once you get to the level you're looking for, you can just hit the stop button, and then, or you could even just pull the port right off of here. But before you do that, you want to close the ball valve to lock it under vacuum. So let's get to it. So take the lid off and just load up your mason jars. Obviously, I don't have any product in here, but whatever products you want to put in here, anything that you don't, like again, salsas, you can do fruits, you can do vegetables, you can do probably a lot of things that I'm not even thinking of off the top of my head, but anything that you can think of that would normally crush in a bag that is a little bit more delicate that you would like to be able to maybe stack and put in your refrigerator. There's a bunch of reasons. Even freezing, you could vacuum seal and then throw these in the freezer. So I'm going to just load this thing up. So I've got here 4 pint size and 2 half pints, and I think I could fit all these at once. Alright, so yes, those fit. I could probably fit 1 more half pint in there. And then just put the lid on. Now, because it's going to be hard to hear when I start this cycle, one word of advice: when we go to put this port, or put the accessory hose over the port, 2 things. You want to hold that port nice and firm down. You can let go of it, but if you want to create that really nice tight seal, I do suggest keeping your hand on there. You can let go though at the same time. You'll notice if it's not getting down on the gauge, if you're not getting down to the pressure, it might be developing a real small leak around this gasket. So just make sure you hold that down there during the cycle. And then the only other thing is at the very beginning, if the gauge doesn't start gradually increasing, so pulling a vacuum, you don't see that that black line fill up on that little bar graph, just give the top of this lid a slight push. You may or may not have to do that. That's just to create a little bit tighter of a seal around this lip. As soon as it creates that initial seal, you can let go and you'll notice that that gauge will just take off and do what it needs to do. So with that being said, I am going to get started. Make sure your valve is open. You got that over the accessory port, and turn on your pump. So within about 5 seconds, the gauge is about half full as far as the vacuum level. We're at 0.05 on the bar graph. So we are already just about maxed off. I'm going to close this. And I'm just taking that off now. You could take it off at the very end, or if you don't want it to fully time out, you can take it off prematurely. It really doesn't matter. So now this is fully under vacuum. You can disconnect the hose. You don't need to. You can leave the hose hooked up. But what we're going to do now is open up the valve and allow that air to rush back in. And you'll hear that here in a second. And that's it. Simple as that. So I'll take the lid off, pull one of these guys out, undo the lid, and that's on there. So you can see how that works. And again, you can do this with any size jar. It does not have to be, you know, like I said, quart size easily fits. The half-gallon will fit as well. Okay, so you can easily see how this chamber would work really well for vacuum sealing mason jars of any size. It works equally as well for vacuum marination. So what you can do is you can place your product inside the chamber, cover it with liquid, pull a vacuum on it just like you would if you were doing the mason jars, close the valve before you get to the level that you want, and then at that point disconnect the port and put it in your refrigerator. You can leave it there for hours. You can leave it there overnight. It will hold vacuum very well. So experiment with it. Try different products. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you've used it for. If you have any questions, certainly leave a comment or contact us directly. JVRinc.com. And we always love feedback. So if you come up with a new idea or something that you can use this for that maybe we haven't covered in this video, then I definitely would love to hear from you. So again, I'm Andrew with JVR Industries, and thanks for watching.